Hello, everyone. It is Sunday afternoon, and I bet you're all at home waiting for this show. I know you are. Today's show, my show, Sleuthing Eye Opening Tales of the Past. I'm your host, Marie LaBrosse, and you're listening to us on WKDW 97.5 FM, Real Community Radio. We're coming out of Northport on the Bishop West Real Estate Tower. They are our sponsor, and we are grateful for the Bishop West Real Estate Company that they have really supported the radio station here in Northport. I am really happy, and I know it's Sunday afternoon. It seems kind of odd for me to be doing my show, but I'm finding that a lot of people, that's when they can do this show. And with our new formatting using StreamYard, we're able to actually get people from their home. They don't have to run out any place, and we can do the interview. Now, today, our special guest, my special guest, is Sandra Gurvis. Now, Sandra is such a talented woman that we could take up a few hours to do this, but unfortunately, we don't have that much time. But we do have time to bring her up. She is an award-winning author, writer of numerous different venues, from novels to 101 places that you want to go see, like in Columbus, Ohio. We'll talk with Sandra so she can tell us really how she came to be an author, because I know she didn't go to school for that. So let's bring her up and welcome her to the show, Sleuthing Eye Opening Tales of the Past. Here we are. Hi, Sandra.
Hi, how are you? On your show. Thank you for having me on your show.
Well, I am so pleased and so honored to have you on the show because you are an award-winning author. You have been at this game since the 80s?
Yeah, I think 1979. My daughter was born in 1978. So I started freelancing in 1979, even though I graduated in social work and sociology and psychology before then. So
and and I was, when I saw that, I'm going, okay, she went to college, she got her degrees in that venue, in that genre. And how did you didn't even go to school to become a writer?
Well,
did you?
Here's the thing. When I grew up, back when dinosaurs roamed the earth, yeah, a lot of us grew up back then. There were two options open for women, essentially teaching and nursing still. Okay, well, my parents were Depression parents, and my father wanted me to be able to get a job and support myself. I didn't want writing and I didn't want teaching and nursing, obviously not nursing. And I thought about journalism, but there was a whole mentality in journalism that's the scent of blood, the newsroom, the competitiveness. I didn't like that. I didn't think I could deal with that. And the other journalism track was literature. And I went to college and everyone loved my writing until I became a sophomore. And I met this fiction professor and he didn't like my writing. And I don't know how he could have possibly thought it. He thought it was melodramatic and I was very insulted. And I also wrote a short story about these two roommates I didn't get along with, and they threw me out. So I decided, I was 19 years old, okay? I decided it was probably better for me not to go with writing. At that point, I was like, so that's, but I always loved writing and I always did it in high school and and so, but I graduated in this and I really wasn't cut out for sociology so much, and really when I graduated in college, I couldn't get a job in my field and I couldn't find any social work jobs at all. And the only job I could get was for the Department of Defense, which was like, well, I was protesting the war in Vietnam. Sure, I'll do that. And in Columbus, which is where I lived for 47 years. And I just, I ended up working for them doing technical writing. And I also had an idea for a novel about the protests at my campus, what happened to me, what happened to my friends. And it really wasn't until I got married that I started working on it again. Actually, yeah, we were first married. My ex-husband, he's now my ex-husband. We were married for a long time, but we did divorce about 20 years ago. But when we were first married, he, give him a lot of credit. He was very supportive. He encouraged me to work on this novel. And it was, and I did, and I wrote it, and I thought I was writing the great American novel. I don't know if you remember a woman named Judith Guest. She wrote a manuscript. It was picked up by somebody from the slush pile, and it was made into a movie. Well, I thought it was the next Judith Guest, and I, typed up the first 50 pages of this novel on my husband's typewriter, which he took home from work. I showed it to my husband. He goes, "This is a bunch of crap. That's not being nice." And I'm like, I'm going to show you. Well, he was right. I got rejection after rejection. I thought, okay, maybe I need to learn how to walk before I run. And that's how I kind of went back into journalism, writing magazine articles, writing for small publications, and then working my way up. And it was not easy. I went through a lot to do that. It was especially in the 80s. It was just not easy. It was very competitive. It's just changed so much. I was still competitive, but it was just quite different than it is now, because people didn't work from home like they do now, and women, especially with 2 children. I had one friend who's very successful. Her name is Sherry Peprocky. She kind of did the same thing I did, so we supported each other through all those years. And they wanted to be writers, but it wasn't the same. So that's it in a nutshell, essentially.
Well, and what you see today compared to, and you touched on it a little bit, but at that time, everything was submitted by,
paper.
in paper.
Typed it up on a typewriter, double spaced. You stuck it in an envelope and you mailed it and hoped that somebody would discover you.
If they opened it.
It's just so laughable today when you think about it. Oh, no. It's almost unheard of.
No, at that time, did you know about agents? Did you know about the whole process?
Of course I did. And of course I knew about agents. I had no idea how to get one. So getting back to my progression of my career, after, I don't know, we're talking maybe the late 1980s. So I'd been at it maybe 10 or 12 years. And I was still working on my first novel, The Pipe Dream, which it took me like 25 years to finish that novel. I mean, it takes a long time, especially for the first one. Anyway, so I was still working on that, but I wanted to do books. So it was like the late 1980s, and I had done a number of magazine articles on odd museums in Ohio. So I came up with the idea of doing a book about odd museums in the United States. So I was very methodical about it, and this is common knowledge now, but I got a book of agents, okay? And instead of looking at the ones who were agents for Stephen King or whoever was best-selling at the time, I looked for agents who were buying the sort of things that I was writing. I based it on the content. And I found 4 agents who were interested, who did books on odd or unusual things or travel type books. And I contacted them, and I think 3 were interested. So you have to find the right agent that matches your type of writing. It doesn't matter. If they're the agent for Stephen King or whoever, good for them. Because that's not going to make any difference for you. It's not going to make a big difference for you. That's something I had to kind of get through my thick skull in the beginning.
Well, and that's one thing for our audience out there to realize, that when you do a query letter, a lot of them cannot be unsolicited in today's world. You have to actually be invited to put in your query letter. And also, today's way different, because you don't even send in your whole manuscript. You'll only send so much of it when they do.
Yeah. There are opportunities, though, and I can't stress this enough. I think today is so much better in so many ways for many different reasons. There are many opportunities to both online, even with COVID, and in the real world, to interact with people who can help you get to where you want to go. Okay, it's much more open than it was back then. It was very exclusive. It was like you had to know the right people, and it was really hard. And it's still hard. I'm not taking that away, but there are still opportunities but you have to be persistent. You have to be willing to be rejected. So, and be turned down, but they are there. They are there. And it's not about finding the right agent, because I know people, I have one friend in mind, colleague, and she had this top agent, and he had her rewrite her book, or she did rewrite her book many times, and it never went anywhere. The agent is not the talent. You are the talent.
Yeah, right.
And I got rid of my first agent that I had. He kept trying to tell me what to do. And then finally somebody said to me, and I was talking about him, and I said, why is he telling you what to do? He's not writing your books. You're writing your books. And I'm like, yeah, you got a point there. So I moved on to somebody else. I think I've had 3 agents in my life. The first one, and the second one, she retired. And then the third one I just kind of fell into, because we both like the same type of topics. And he's still my agent. I could still consider him an agent. I would go to him if I ever had something that he could actually make money off of. He's semi-retired. He actually moved down here. So I followed him. Not really.
Yeah.
No, I did not follow him. It was just coincidence. It's a coincidence.
Well, that's what you have to do, is actually have those right people that are able to make you feel more confident, in case you have somebody to go to, that you do have that person to really bounce off of. And an agent, in my estimation, should be someone that is promoting your book and trying to find you somebody to help publish it, and that they shouldn't tell you how to do that.
They know the right. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And up on the screen here for the audience to actually take a look, if you're watching us on Facebook, you can take a look at all of your writings. And then I'm going to go back to your home page here. And
I don't have the latest book up there. I have a couple books that are missing. I have to do something. I have to update my website. I mean, it's fine, and it's actually up to date in terms of the content that it's one of those things that I keep putting off. You need to get that done.
I wanted to for people to see what you do have. In fact, we'll go into the Amazon one. I think probably.
That has better. Yeah, absolutely.
One to take a look at. As we're talking here, and as I'm bringing that up on screen, no, you found out in the early beginning that if you started getting published, like in magazines and in the different areas there, that your name got out there.
And smaller. Yes. Yeah. I'm essentially kind of doing the same thing here in Florida. I lived in Ohio for so many years, and it's kind of starting over again in a way, but getting my name out there. Yes. Right. That's very important.
And let's kind of touch on a subject that you're writing actually right now about the Ringling.
Yes, I am under contract with Roman, I think it's Roman now, Press, to do a book on the 3 Ringling circus, the Sarasota and the Ringling family and the circus. And now that I got my vaccines and things are opening up a bit, I'm in the process of really trying to find people who can help me find the kind of information I need. There's a lot of information out there, and I have access to a lot of it, but I feel like I need to get more people involved in the project, because the book is a collaborative project, and I'm working on it. I've actually got a couple of contacts who can maybe better help me, because I'm new to this. I mean, I could sit and rewrite some boring book that's already been up there, but I don't want to. I want to find out something fresh. Nobody, writing can only take you so far. You've got to find out, get the good stuff, the newspaper clippings, the pictures, that sort of thing. The first source material is what really makes it come alive.
Right. And because of me doing a lot of history myself, I do a lot of research on the area and on the history, and about the Ringlings, not as much as the Palmers, and I'm more in Charlotte County that I do a lot of research there.
Right.
But when you're looking at doing research, because to get some of the firsthand information from people that actually may still be alive that knew some of these people, And
Yeah,
and the,
probably not too many, but
no, there's not too many, but you may be
and then
fortunate
there's
to
a
come across
diary.
somebody.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm open to suggestions, so if anybody knows anybody, I'd be very
Well,
interested.
and there are people out there, and I know that John, I'm trying to think of his last name. He's with the Historic Spanish Point. He did history in the area for like 27 years, but he
Yeah,
was around doing tours like that, and even with the anybody that, well, with the historic societies around too. There is a lot of history there, and with the Ringlings, they have a wealth of information, probably
they
in their
do, but they're
library.
not really open. The archives are not really opened. I was told that I have to do everything online. So with the
Yeah.
archive.
So if anybody out there has some information that can help Sandra put together a book with the correct information and even firsthand stories or secondhand, maybe a parent,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, I mean, it's
or
the history of
grandparent.
Sarasota. I mean, I do go delve into the history of Sarasota, but mostly it's the Ringling influence on Sarasota. And
Right.
not, and like I said, I think once I get into some of these books and get into some of these papers and talk to some people, because I've got a couple leads with a couple different people, I've got quite a bit of time to finish this book, but
Well,
I just need to it's every, I don't care how many books you write. I don't care how many magazine articles you write. A new project is always intimidating. So
right.
to me anyway, I can't speak for anybody else. Maybe other people might feel the same way, but it's
Well,
like,
I
oh my
imagine
gosh.
you have binders and books, well, probably on your computer now, so much research for everything. And when you are solicited, when you're writing this book, do they tell you how big they want it to
Oh,
be?
yes. Yeah. Usually what happens, well, it's different with fiction and nonfiction, but with nonfiction books, they usually tell me what they want, and I give them a proposal and maybe do a couple of chapters or part of a chapter. And they let me know, I know how long it's to be, how many, like the Ringling book, they told me how many words, how many pictures. And in my mind, then I know what to write. Like with the Ringling book, I looked at my outline and I saw that most of it's about Ringling. And the first of it's about the history of Sarasota. So of course, I'm sure there's a Sarasota Historical Society that I can go to, and do all that. But the history of the circus, I'm not doing that till the end because that's easy. That's not what the book's about anyway. The book's about here. So but you get a feel for how many words. I always sit down and before I write anything, it's like, how long is it supposed to be? What do I want to do? Just a lot of thinking ahead and planning, actually, except for my novel. That's always a
Yeah.
surprise.
Yeah, and it's fascinating with the Ringlings because his wife, uh, the society and the people that came to visit Ringling when he wintered down here,
And
and he
Mabel
had
Ringling was
yeah,
quite
with a
yeah.
mirror, and there's so much information. Well, and there's so much history there. In fact, if I really go into my brain, and I think I might have a few books around uh, about the Ringlings and that, it's just amazing how much they influence the growth of this area
Oh, I
because
know.
Sarasota would not be the art center that it is if it
Yep.
wasn't for the Ringlings and building that
Right.
beautiful, bringing all those paintings here. I
I know.
when I go to the Ringling Museum and I walk around and see these giant paintings of the Renaissance areas that you're walking through, and these are the originals of those artists, and they're the originals. You would have to travel different places. You don't have to go overseas to see these. You can
Yeah, I
go right
know.
into
Pretty amazing.
Sarasota and just walking around that museum, uh, crazy. And one of the things that I really loved, and they changed it is they used to have the medieval fair there on the grounds
Mhm.
of the Ringling Museum. And that was so awesome because you were able to go through the Ringling Museum also with that.
Mhm.
We were able to go and see the rose gardens. It was just a beautiful place to go. But I think over the years, and that because of so much traffic, it may
Yeah.
have done some damage to the grounds.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
It's quite an undertaking. When I think about it, I was like, I get overwhelmed even thinking about
well,
it.
yeah, looking at it, because there is a lot of history.
Yeah.
There is so much history with that family being here, and then the campus of the new
College.
college is actually his brother's mansion. Charles
Oh, okay.
Ringling. The mansion is part of New College, where they have the admin building, which you can go and take that out, because our grandchild went to New College, and the kids used to run through the Ringling ground to get over to the other mansion. There's a mansion on the left that's part of the college too, and the kids would use the Ringling grounds to go from one place to the other.
I bet they love that.
Oh, they did not. They did
Yeah,
not.
I don't think so.
Yeah,
I don't think so. They're pretty formal over there. That's the impression I get. So,
and on Mondays, the Ringling Museum is free to the public, in case people didn't know that.
Oh, that is good to know for me, because I have to make frequent trips there. Mondays
Yes,
will be my Ringling day.
Monday is Ringling free day, and then they have so much actually going on there, and then the Ringling College of the Arts. There's such a connection there.
Yeah.
When we're off here, I can talk to you, because I have connections with other people.
Okay. Yeah, just let me know, because I think I'm going to start with this Sarasota part of it, and then I'm going to go into the Ringling part, but I'll be gathering information. So.
Right, absolutely. Well, let's talk about more of your books and how you really have blossomed through the years. And you've even written textbooks, correct?
Not
technical. Well,
I have written a number of books on being self-employed and working in the workplace, and they're not textbooks, but I've written 3 or 4 books on that. And I wish that I could have updated the one that I did. I can't remember the name of it now, but I did one in 1999 that I wish they would have renewed it, because it would have done really well.
Is it the
no, that's not the one. And that's all right. That I worked with a guy on that one. It happens. My brain doesn't always. It just says nope.
Me either. Okay, I'm going to go over some of these books. 111 Places in Columbus That You Must Not Miss. Now, I've never been to Columbus, Ohio, believe it or not. And how did you research something like that?
Uh-oh.
Oh, did you lose me?
No, I lived in Columbus for 47 years. Just for a second. I've been in Columbus. Lived in Columbus for 47 years, and I knew the city, and I've written 4 other books about traveling in Columbus and Ohio. So I knew that one. That is not a book I would recommend writing for somebody unless they actually live in the city or they like to spend lots of research. The stories on that one, but I learned all kinds of new stuff. I got to explore some really neat things, and it was fun. But it's 111 places, and the descriptions are small, as I read in the radio show, and the pictures are a big part of that one. So that one was just published a couple of years ago, about a year ago, last January, I think, right before the pandemic hit.
Oh, and I bet this one sells well. Myths and Mysteries.
Oh, yes, that one did very well and still selling well. That was 13 unusual stories about Ohio, from ghosts to UFOs to, I don't know, dead men. One dead guy, they found this dead man, and they preserved him, and people would come and look at him. It was really strange. All kinds of. Ohio is pretty much on a par with Florida with regards to strange things. So that was fun to write. Yeah.
That's interesting. Now, when you were talking about UFOs, because I am an ancient alien person, let me just put that out there.
That's okay.
And one of the things, I think, when the rumor has it, with the ancient aliens and that, with Roswell, when they had that crash there, I think they sent some of the wreckage
to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. Yes, they did. And all those people that worked there were asked to sign the modern non-disclosure agreement. And then when they got older, they started thinking about how they wanted to tell the truth. And a bunch of people came forward and said, yes, there were aliens at Wright-Pat.
Right.
Extraterrestrials, not illegal, not the other ones.
No, they're from outer space people.
Yeah,
They're not from this world. And for any of the people out there, whether you believe it or not, because you do get controversy, especially with religion. That's where some of that comes in. Part of it is, I think that us as a society, if you think we're the only things in this whole universe, I don't know.
Yeah, I agree with you.
It makes me wonder with people. Now, Ohio Curiosities. I see the Campbell soup. Is that a water tower on there?
Yes, and that's where they make Campbell soup. So that's their company logo. So that was and that went into 2 editions. I think the last edition had 113 places. A lot of these regional titles, actually, it's the same publisher that I'm doing the Sarasota book with. It was Globe Piquot, and now they got bought out by Roman and Little Roman publishers. But they used to do all these regional titles, and they were very popular for a while, but they don't do as many of them as they did.
Well, a lot of people don't buy hardbacks or books anymore. Don't they just do it on their computer, on their device?
Kindle, yeah. And it's and the other thing that's kind of unfortunate is these publishers don't want to pay very much.
Yeah.
And how can you live on pennies a day? And so they get people like when this they wanted me to do the Myths and Mysteries book. They wanted me to do a book called Dead Jerks in Ohio. And because they had been bought out, it's a long story. They weren't going to pay me anything. And I said, I can't. I just can't do that.
Right.
And that book never did very well, never went anywhere because the person that wrote it was an academic and was used to writing textbooks. Like I would never write textbooks. I'm not an academic. I could edit textbooks. I could, and maybe, suggest the organizations, but I don't have that tone. And that's not the tone you want to take when you're writing a travel book. Tone is very important when you write a book.
Right, exactly. And you want to make it exciting for people to go to different places.
And they need something new. I mean, that's the thing. And you can write on a topic like I think it was the Ohio Curiosities one that caused me so much worry in the beginning because they had several books out like that. And I thought, okay, how can I make my book different? How can I make the book stand out? And I did more in-depth research on each one of those entries so that, that helped. I think that helped with the sales of that one. So.
And managing the telecommuting employee.
That was that was an outgrowth of all the work I did. The first book I did was off careers. Okay, now it's back. My brain has now coughed up the title. The first book that I wrote about self-employment was called The Off the Beaten Path Job Book. The other one was Careers for Nonconformists. That's the one that won the Quality Paperback Book Club. That came out in around I think it was 1999 or 2000. And that I don't even think that one's on there anymore. I haven't seen it on there in a while.
Well, so take a look here. Okay, and then you have Day Trips from Columbus.
That was part of the series I did on Ohio. So
series. Country Club Wives.
That was my second novel. I had just gotten divorced. The first one is The Pipe Dreamers. This one, The Pipe Dreamers, next to it is a second edition of my first novel. Okay. I wrote that. I need to talk about The Pipe Dreamers before I talk about the second one. I wrote The Pipe Dreamers over a period of about 25 years, and it was such a learning curve and kind of an ordeal to get it published. But I finally got it published. I think it was around 9/11, 2001. And the last thing the world wanted at 9/11, understandably so, was a book about a bunch of student protesters and hippies in the Vietnam era, which is what The Pipe Dreamers is. It's about the Vietnam protests on a small Ohio college campus. And the book did well. I mean, actually it did really well. I was invited to speak. I sold a fair amount of copies. I did pretty well with it. Well, I wrote that book not knowing if I had another novel in me. And then I went through a divorce about 2000. I don't know, it was about 2000 or so, same time. And I moved to a place called New Albany, Ohio. And it was very exclusive and new and interesting. And I was like low-hanging fruit, and I started writing country club wives because the whole country club thing fascinated me because I kind of grew up in that a little bit, not as an adult, but as a child. And that interested me. And they had a country club, and I was actually a member of that country club for a while. And it was so much fun to write, and it was like great therapy for after my divorce. And it did really well. And once again, it's quite the topic of conversation in New Albany. I called. I'll never forget, I called to get some tickets to some performance in New Albany. And I gave her my name, and she says, "You're that Sandra Gurvis." I'm like, oh my gosh. It was very cool. So that's a satire. New Country Club Wives is a satire on women, money, and homeless animals in New Wellington, quote on New Wellington, New Albany, New Wellington, Ohio. So that's a satire. That's more different because I do enjoy writing a good satire, and I happen to think that right now we need another one, and that's what I'm working on is another one. So,
okay,
about the villages.
Yes, and there you go.
Yeah.
In fact, you can have a huge novel about the villages. We have some questions that are coming up, and we're going to address some of them. Do you remember approximately how many proposals you made to agents before an agent snagged you?
Well, I've made lots of proposals to lots of agents, but when I did the book on unusual museums, I went on to the Writer's Digest Guide to Literary Agents, which I think they still have in an online form. There's a guide to literary agents. And I looked at what the agents were buying, the types of books. So I found 4 agents that were interested in me. But I had many proposals to many agents, dozens, and most of the time they just ignored me because I hadn't targeted my proposal. I mean, when I figured out that I needed to target my proposal to the right agent that would be interested in selling what I wanted to write. See, that's the whole trick to getting an agent. If you get an agent, it doesn't mean that your book's going to sell. For Country Club Wives, I had a good agent who sold a very similar novel that did very well. But by that time, when did I finish? 2010 or so, or however long it took me to finish it. The agent was kind of not obsolete, but they didn't want smaller books. It had to be a big best-selling title. And so I ended up publishing it myself on Kindle and then finding a publisher that way. So I didn't even need an agent. I found an agent. I used my agent when it was optioned for TV in 2014. That's when I called the guy I work with and asked him to help me with that. But yeah, it's just not black and white. It's not like I'll write a book, I'll find an agent. And yeah, sometimes it does happen that way. I'm sure it does, but it's not, there's just no one way to go about doing it. There's a bunch of different ways.
Yeah, absolutely. And some of our writers on the Air, some of the people involved brought in a conference here. And they and they brought in different agents and publishers and different people.
Right.
And I was lucky enough to facilitate their discussions. So I was able to learn a lot more even about that and how you query, about how you even, if you're sending something to somebody that's not open for even any solicitation, it's just going straight to the garbage. They're not even going to open it and look at it. So you have to actually do your homework and really realize what they can do. Okay. A lot of local authors who are familiar with Pineapple Press may like to know that Pineapple Press is now an imprint of a major publishing company. Please share the name with that publishing company. You mentioned Pineapple Press is taking on one of your books.
Yeah, and the publishing company is Roman, Rowman. Roman. It's Roman in Littlefield or Roman. They call it both.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I mentioned that, but if I didn't, I meant to.
Okay, I think you did. And then Kim Cool, and she doesn't know if this spelling is correct, is a wealth of local knowledge. She works at the Sun Paper in Venice. Thank you, Linda Shell, for letting us know and asking those questions. And thank you for watching this afternoon. We do actually have a few people that are watching us right now. I can tell how they're doing that. Sandra, as we're going along now, and as you being a parent, and you're raising your children along the line, finding the time to balance the family reading, writing, because when's the best time for you to actually put your mind where you need to be to write?
Well, when I had children a long time ago, when they were growing up, when they were little, I always had babies. I always took them to a babysitter about 3 days a week so that I could focus on my writing. And then the rest of the time I was with them, because I don't think it's fair to expect children to be sitting quietly while you're trying to concentrate. It doesn't, and my daughter-in-law has the same issue because of COVID. My granddaughter's with her in the apartment, and she ended up, and Hope's a great kid. She's very well behaved, but she's 8 years old, and any kid that's 8 years old is going to want to do stuff. I mean, that's a kid. And it was the same thing with her, because you need to find a place for them. It's a job, your writing's a job. I mean, I'm working on this novel, and it doesn't, and I try not to let it matter what else I have to do. I'm going to work on the novel, 4 hours a week, and that's how I get it done. And I'm like 70 pages into it, or 75 pages into it, but nobody's there. I mean, no, you don't have to worry about babysitting anymore, obviously. But it's just, you just have to find that time and make up your mind that this is when I'm going to do this. So.
Well, and it's a discipline. Like you're going to a job, it is a job, and you have to actually set the time to do that. When you're working on some of this, some of the things, how do you put your books together? Do you do an outline? How do you put, because everybody does it differently.
Yes, they sure do. Yeah. Well, with my nonfiction books, like I said, with this, like the Ringling book that I'm working on now, I've said, okay, I'm going to start with Sarasota, and I'll ease into that. This area is new to me. I don't know a whole lot about it. I mean, I've been here a bunch of times, and now I live here, but I have a lot to learn. I really do. And so I need to get familiar with that. I just one foot in front of the other. I organize anything, article, whatever, especially if it's nonfiction. I will organize it. I will write down the salient points, and then it takes its own shape. Now with this novel, and even somewhat with Country Club Wise, that's not the case. I had a vague, I wasn't even sure this Villages novel was going to even go into anything. I had a vague idea for one character, and I wrote the first 3 chapters about her, and then I have another character. And I mean, I'm writing from the point of view of a Black man. Okay, so I have a lot of research to do. That's my second character. And I'm learning so much. And I was going to have him be one person. And he's like, no, I want to do this. He's doing something completely different. So I'm like, okay. But see, I try to let my characters take their lead, because the story, that's what makes the story exciting for me and keeps me entertained, because I have no idea what's going to happen next. And that's the fun thing about writing fiction and even essays. But nonfiction, and nonfiction too, because a lot of times you'll be surprised when you put things together, it comes into something completely new. And the truth of it is, if I write something and it comes out real easily, sometimes it needs to be reworked and reorganized. It's never easy. It's really hard work.
Now, do you have different editors that edit your work?
Whoever I work with, yes. I work with different people. Yeah.
Different people. Now, are they from Ohio? Do you have them all around?
No, they're all over the country. Everything is virtual. It's very different. Yeah. Yeah, I think my other editor, I have a different editor now, because my one editor lived in Montana, but she got another job at another press. And that happens a lot, with my Sarasota book, my Ringling book. One editor brought me on, and then another editor took over, and she's very nice. They're both really nice ladies. But it's all about, it doesn't matter where anybody's located or who they are. It's all about the content. I think that, by keeping your focus on the ball about what you're writing and what you're trying to write, not And that's hard, it's hard. But doing that will make it a lot easier.
And that's one of the things that I wanted to explain to the audience, because no matter what you're in, if you're in film, TV, if you're an actor, or if you're an author, there's a lot of similarities about putting things together, because it's about you, it's about your work, what you're doing there, about agents, about getting things published, to put yourself out there. If somebody's a new author that's just beginning,
Right.
what kind of advice would you give to them?
Well, I think that the best thing that you can do is actually get to know other authors and go to writers' conferences and have people read your work, and understand that if somebody doesn't like it, it's not the end of the world. Many of a much more successful author than me has been told that they are horrible writers, has gone on to best-selling fame. But that said, you also need to listen to constructive criticism. You need to learn how to win, and that takes experience. But anybody, I belong to the American Society of Journalists and Authors, and I've been a member of it for a very long time. And I don't know what I would have done without them. Because there are other freelance writers like myself, and you need that support group. Even if you have a family, even if you have friends, people that do the same thing you do, you support each other, and that helps so much. That helps.
Yeah, and they understand the problems that you go through.
And take classes. I mean, a few years ago, I decided I wanted to do medical writing. That's one of the things I do. And I went back and I got certified as a medical writer in medical writing and editing from the American Medical Writers Association. And I didn't have a lot of money, but I scrimped and saved and got that, traveled all over the United States to take these classes to learn about medical writing and editing. And that helped me tremendously. It didn't matter how many books I'd written. It didn't matter. I had to know how to do this particular thing. So if you're looking at a genre, you're starting all over again, just like I'm starting all over again here in Florida. So with regards to my research.
And talking about some of the books that you've published, Paris Hilton, a biography. Tell me a little bit about that one.
That was a one-off. Well, they were looking for, when you're a writer, like in my writing association, these publishers need somebody to write these books that are parts of a series. That is part of a series for junior high and high school students. And they wanted somebody to do that. And I was she was a hot number back then. And I was fascinated with her, and I said, "Sure, I'll do it." So they asked me to do it. It was okay. I think it was. Well, and it looks like Chinese or something. Huh?
Was it a good seller?
No.
Okay. No. America's Strangest Museums. Now, this is all over the country.
That was my first book. It was originally called The Cockroach Hall of Fame and 101 other off-the-wall museums. And it was published by a publisher, Carroll Publishing, that's been long gone. That was my book that I was saying I sent to 4 agents. And that one, it was got national exposure. I got on Good Morning America. This was like in the night, maybe, God, what was it, 1990? I don't remember, so long ago. And I mean, I traveled, went to different places and promoted that book. That was really cool. And then they repurposed it as this America's Strangest Museum. But like I said, those books, they're not really, people like them, but I don't see them out much. I don't know what's going on with that. So
right. And I know, where have all the flower children gone?
That's a nonfiction
follow-up. Here.
That's a nonfiction follow-up to my novel, The Pipe Dreamers. That was published by University Press in Mississippi. That was
and the careers for the nonconformists.
That was published by a different one. Yeah. So.
And was that repurposed? I mean, it was redone?
No, that was new. That was completely new. But the Off the Beaten Path job book was like a list of jobs that people could do that were different. Careers for Nonconformists was probably one of the first books about working from home and how to be a remote worker, what they call now a remote worker. But that was published a long time ago. It really
Well,
was.
well, what about the Cockroach Hall of Fame?
That's the first one I wrote. That's the original cover.
Oh, that one I would have looked at just because of the title.
It did very well.
Yeah.
And then I have Confessions of a Crazy Cat Lady. That's a bunch of essays that were published by the same publisher who published Country Club Wives.
Now,
I've written a bunch of.
Yeah. Have you found your book cover sells?
That book. Actually, half the time with a smaller publisher, one of the great things is that you can pick your own cover. And I hired somebody to do that cover for me, and I love it. I got tons of compliments on that cover, actually.
Yeah, I'm looking at it because it makes a difference when I'm looking for books and that I do look at the cover. And if it's something like that, I definitely would open it up and I probably would buy it.
Yeah, I did my research and I found an artist that I really like. Initially, they were going to, I think I was supposed to be working with one guy and he didn't get it. And I'm like, look, I'm sorry. So I went and I told my publisher, I'll pay, and hired this other person that was worth it, just to have the right cover for the right, the book. And I'm going to actually, one of the cool things about working with smaller publishers, like with the second edition of The Pipe Dreamers and with Country Club Wives and with this book, is that they let you decide, at least tell them what you think should be on the cover. So that I really like.
Yeah, so they listen to you. And that's one, I know that we have to end in a few minutes, but that's another thing too, to work with these different publishers. There are some easier to work with than others, aren't there?
Yeah. I mean, most of the time I've found most of them are fairly, reasonable to work with. Knock on wood. I haven't really had
Well, here I see the Chinese edition of the Paris Hilton book.
Yeah.
That is really.
I mean, it's just a matter of just making sure that it's all about the content and not trying to take stuff personally. I know that's hard. I have a hard time with that too, but yeah, I mean, it's, they have this, they hire you because they like your writing and they like your ideas. So it's usually a nice, very pleasant type of situation.
Well,
and a lot of times they have some amazing suggestions too. So you have to listen to those.
Yeah. And working in collaboration with them because they are representing you or they're trying to sell your book, and that it's a win-win for each other if you can work together well.
Well, yeah. And I'm a big believer in collaboration. I know there are authors like Johnson, Franzen, who whatever. I don't get that. Very hands-off, very let me do my fabulous work. But I'm not, even with my fiction or nonfiction, I try to talk to as many people as possible, because the more I know about the subject and the people, the better understanding I have of it.
One last thing before we go, promoting your books. Because a lot of authors don't understand that it's not only about your publisher or your agent going out there. A lot of times you're the one that has to
be. You are it.
You signing it.
You are it. You are it. You are it. You are it. I was terrified of public speaking. I don't think I spoke in public till I was 35. In fact, the first time I did it was for a small group of women writers that I knew very well. I thought I was going to pass out. And I was terrified, and I had to learn how to speak in public. You just have to, that's part of it. You have to be able to learn how to talk to people. It's not so much selling yourself, because people will be, and I learned this the hard way. It's a lot of times people say, I don't like your ideas, or I don't like your book. I'm like, okay. Or if I don't think they will, I'm at a book fair. I'll say, you know what? Maybe not this, but maybe this author over here. Yeah, I mean, it's more of a subtle type thing. It's about finding a match more than selling, So, but you have to learn that. It's hard to learn. It was hard for me to learn that. You have to learn a lot of stuff if you want to sell books and be successful at it. Yeah.
And book fairs
aspects.
Yeah. And I know there's a lot, and many of the people today are self-published, and, there's nothing wrong with doing that.
Not a thing.
Yeah, but it's better if you can get a publisher to help you with it, because there are expenses that go along with doing your self-publishing. And at least if you're with a publisher, they'll have different people to actually
Right.
do some of the PR for you. Well, Sandra, it has been just a pleasure, and thank you for taking time out of your busy
Thank you. This
life.
flew by very quickly.
And I
It was
learned so
fun.
much,
Yeah.
and I really appreciate you coming on, and to our audience. Thank you for coming on and listening to us and our radio show. Without you, we wouldn't have a radio show. We wouldn't have this platform to be able to reach out to you. And if you look at the bottom of the page, if you want to get a hold of Sandra Gurvis, www.sandragurvis.com, and her email is sjgurvis@gmail.com. It's sjgurvis with a U at gmail.com. Thank you all for listening today. Have a great day. And one thing in life, please be kind, because
Yeah.
we have a lot of choices in life, and kindness is one of them. If all of us would just take a little bit of our time and be kind to the next person, what a wonderful world this would be. Thank you. Have a
Thank you.
great day.